Welcome to Flat, Cool, and Acid Free, an OK State Archives podcast, bringing you stories about Oklahoma State University and Oklahoma. I'm Nina Thornton, multimedia producer for the OSU Libraries. On this episode, we're talking about acquisition, how we get things here in the OSU Archives. Sometimes it comes with a bit of mystery, and sometimes it can be a bit messy. There are generally 4 ways that things come to us. Donation.
But we get calls out of the blue. People think we might be interested in something. And usually there's some kind of affiliation that they know of or that they have with the university. So it could be an alum. It could be a faculty and staff member who come across stuff. It could be someone from OSU administration who's learned about something. It could be from the alumni association. They know. I've got people that I know in the alumni association now that if someone contacts them, they know to contact me if they think it's something we might want. So we've got kind of a referral system going on here, kind of an informal referral system. OSU Foundation, they send out folks to work with former alums and donors, potential donors, all over the state and really all over the nation. And so they become aware of materials that we wouldn't have the ability of knowing about. And so they hear of something, they let us know. This is a collection this gentleman has. He's willing to consider donating it, and then we begin the discussion about whether we're a good fit for that material. Another way is as a transfer. So another institution has received maybe OSU related materials, and then they contact us.
Next, there's records retention.
Well, then there's also things that just come to us as a part of the Oklahoma records retention schedule. And so if it's related to the university, departments across campus are responsible for uh, knowing which items they need to turn over to us. And so there's an official structure in place for those materials to get to us. There's forms they complete. We make arrangements to either retrieve those materials from their offices, or they bring it to us. And we like to work with them beforehand, or then they bring us stuff we don't need. We'll just have them bring us the stuff we want or need to retain. So there's the official process for records management. It's part of the records management program for things that ultimately end up in the archive.
Then there's the hunt for the golden nugget, and it's a bit of an adventure. It's not often that we get these kinds of calls.
My name is Ben Hedges. I am the senior archival technician here at Archives. I have been working almost going on 3 years here in our archives. Sometimes we actually go to people's homes and we'll kind of pick and choose things, or they'll have things for us to pick up. Most recently, one of the most interesting ones I had is we had a house flipper that I guess had taken in a burned out home of a former professor and said, I've got all this stuff that say OSU on it. If you would like to take any of it before it's demolished within the next week, it's all yours. So I walk in with a flashlight, and I've got the burned out walls, no electricity, just burned out carpets, that burn smell, and there's some boxes sitting in a corner and file cabinets. And I grabbed what I could.
It's fairly typical to get phone calls out of the blue. That happens fairly regularly. It's fairly rare though that these are phone calls that are really salvage efforts by someone who is not related either to the material or to OSU. Because what you do is when you arrive, you don't always know what you're gonna see, and so you have to make kind of a immediate appraisal decisions and evaluations about, okay, is this something worthwhile? Like I say, we sometimes you dig through a lot of gravel before you find any gold nuggets, and so sometimes we have to be willing to dig through a lot of gravel. And I've pulled things from sheds, from silos, from barns, from attics, from garages, from closets, from basements. I mean, we've retrieved materials from a lot of different situations. We mentioned the house that had fire damage, burn damage. There was a building we were it's probably been 6-9 months ago now, but it was leaning, and the material was up on the second floor, and so there was a narrow staircase with no handrails, um, and once you got to the second floor, a bunch of the windows had been broken out. And so birds had been through there, the roof leaked, but there was material there that we really wanted, and we appreciated the individuals letting us know about that content. And of course, as we're kind of making these quick decisions, what we can pull out, because we didn't want all of it, we couldn't take all of it, but what we could take and what we couldn't, and then we were told, well, and it had been salvaged. It wasn't always in the attic. Actually, it had been salvaged from a basement that had flooded. So this material had gone from a flooded basement to now to a second floor of a leaning building. So you have to make these spot judgments. And I'm sure I've made mistakes. I'm sure there's things, well, I know there's things I've taken that I didn't end up wanting or needing. And I know there's things I've probably not taken that I wish I had. But I just, you just can't, you just don't have time to go through everything. And so you just do the best you can under the situation you're confronted with. We've had some very generous people open up their homes and share their possessions with the University Archives, and so we're appreciative of that. And hopefully, we've tried to be respectful of the materials that they've given us. I've also tried to be respectful even when I decline materials. Let them know, this is valuable, but we would not be the best home for that. And then I try to help them find the best home for that if possible.
The fourth way things come to the archives:
We call them drive-bys.
when things just show up, unplanned
It's a
and
little box of
unannounced.
stuff. We don't know where it came from. We just know it wasn't there Friday when we left, and it was there Monday when we came to work. One time there was a shoebox that had a number of OSU images from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they were, most of them weren't larger than 5x7s. A lot of them were about 4x6 and 3x5, so they were a smaller format. Some of them, the images weren't real clear, but you could see what it was. It just wasn't a good. Technically, it wasn't a good photograph. Um, but creatively, it may have been a really unique perspective on a facility or an activity or event on campus. And then some of them were just great. Some of them were just wonderful photographs, both technically and perspective wise. They were just wonderful images, and they just we don't know who had them, why they had them. We're thankful they gave them to us. Some of them had little notes on them, but um, nothing that could lead us to a donor. And a lot of them we had then, since I fortunately know most of the buildings on campus, it was easy for me to identify those things. But some of the events, I couldn't tell. I mean, I knew it was a dance, but whether it was a fraternity dance or, I couldn't see any Greek letters. I couldn't tell. It was a dance. If it was in the old gymnasium, I could say it was in the old gymnasium, but who sponsored it, I don't know. So, but and part of it is I just love pictures too. So maybe that's why I remember the shoebox of pictures. And my best recollection, they were from the late 30s, during the 40s, and into the early 50s. Well, another Woody Harris used to be in charge of the audiovisual department here, and Woody uh, found a whole bunch of photographs, thousands of photographs, in a dumpster. And so he dumpster dived and and saved literally thousands of images. And these were high quality, roughly 5x7 negatives. That a lot of them captured just a remarkable time for the campus. And for some reason, somebody, there again we don't know, threw them away. He saw them, realized what was happening, and saved them. And so we have Woodfin Harris. God bless you. You saved a bunch of thousands, literally thousands of images.
Regardless of how things get to the OSU archives, we are dedicated to preserving and providing access to those materials related to OSU local and state history. Find our digital collections at archives.library.okstate.edu. Link is always in the show notes. This episode featured David Peters, head of the OSU Archives, and Ben Hedges, senior archival technician for the archives, and was produced by Nina Thornton. Theme music is It's a Process, composed by Ben Stone and Finley Green, and published by BBC Production Music, PRS. From the folks at Oklahoma State University Libraries and the Archives, thanks for listening. And always remember to keep your archival material flat, cool, and acid-free.